How do you assess, I mean, this is a very gloomy picture of Saudi Arabia and our complicity in it. One of the great things that David does in this book is to lay out our complicity in kind of sustaining tyrannous outfits like Saudi Arabia. Just tell us how you read it at the moment and whether in fact it's going to change its ways, or whether in fact the same entity which gave rise really to the Osama bin Laden's movement is going to sustain.
No, I mean, the great dilemma of Saudi Arabia is that, frankly, you'd be hard put to get a £5 note between the ideas poured out by the clerical establishment, which has been in the hands since the refoundation of the Saudi state just over a century ago, of the House of Abdul Wahab, now called the House of al-Sheikh, along with justice, education, important swathes of social affairs and so on, to find the difference between that and the ideas that are espoused by bin Laden and his friends, and which essentially is, we all agree on the same thing, but you don't live up to it. So, when your state is built on a compact like that, and it is a machine for pouring out these ideas, not only into impressionable young Saudi minds, but internationally. If you go down the Balkans these days, for example, you'll find these brand new Wahhabi mosques, well endowed. This clearly is a problem. That is, to my mind, their strategic dilemma, which I think gradually they're coming round to see, but not all of the ruling family. I mean, they have persisted in this notion that Al-Qaeda is, quote, to use their exact word, deviant. I mean, it's very hard to see in precisely what way it deviates in terms of ideas. In terms of how you act on those ideas, that there is a deviation.
Do you think the West understands the involvement, the full involvement of Saudi Arabia in both Pakistan and in Afghanistan?
Well, it should do, because it was up to its own neck in it, and still is. It may not like the consequences, but what has it done in Pakistan during the Musharraf decade? Pretty much unstinting backing, $12 billion, almost entirely to the army, nothing to schools, health, water, anything like that. These people playing a double game of maybe sort of taking down that jihadi organization this week, but sort of arming, aiming, and firing another jihadi organization the following week. I mean, to the extent that they've now got the run of the country practically, and this is a sort of Frankenstein's monster on the loose.
When Obama, quite rightly, puts Pakistan in the heart of the resolution of the Afghan crisis, how do you see them tackling it if they don't actually begin to talk serious Turkey with Saudi Arabia?
That is something that I think they can do, actually. I mean, they seem to have made the leap of realization that, which is frankly obvious, that Afghanistan and Pakistan have now become a single arena, a single theatre, if you like. But there's a word missing in that job description, Holbrook's job description. It should be something like AFPAC Mir or AFPAC Ind or something, because clearly it's not just the Saudi dimension, but you will never persuade the Pakistani military in its sort of primordial battle with India that it should cease these dalliances with jihadism, which is a cost-effective piece of asymmetric warfare. I mean, if you can use 3,000 jihadis to hold down 500,000 members of the Indian Army in the Valley of Kashmir, it seems to work for them. But the other thing is, unless they can persuade the Pakistani High Command and ISI intelligence services, military intelligence, that they are not going to leave a vacuum at their back in Afghanistan where India can hold a dagger to them, they will never stop this. Mm-hmm. They will just discriminate between the jihadi flavor of the week, frankly. I mean, what works for them.
Do you see Iran as a greater threat than Saudi Arabia?
I think there is an element about Iran which kind of suits our sort of media mentality, really, which is, the ability to supply pantomime villains from central casting is truly prodigious. I mean, it really is. Where you can just put the picture on a front page, you don't need to say anything, really. The elements, it seems to me, in Iran of an engagement of a so-called grand bargain have long been there, been pretty clear. I think we know really what they want, which is people acknowledge that they're a regional power and that they have serious security concerns. They are, after all, the only country in modern times to have had weapons of mass destruction used against them, mostly supplied by the West. That equally, I think, we pretty much know what is required of them, the security of their neighbors. It will eventually, in my view, come down to whether or not it is acceptable to everybody that Iran actually has the knowledge of, it is in possession of the full nuclear fuel cycle, but has not weaponized, which is where the debate has long been inside Iran. I think most of what we've seen so far from the Obama administration is, how can I put it, mood music. The right sort of moves, from his victory speech in Chicago, the inauguration speech, the Al Arabiya interview, the Iranian New Year message, and so on. Really, right buttons and all the rest of it. Substance, I would say the first real substance is that decision, which was, I think there were three possibilities on the table: Indonesia, Egypt, Turkey. Indonesia too peripheral to the main problem that the US faces and the region faces, and choice between Egypt, this increasingly sterile and bankrupt dictatorship, and Turkey, a vibrant democracy which is somehow, from pillar to post, trying to make a success of this sort of neo-Islamist political formation.